Aaron Judge won the MVP unanimously. We're going to talk about that. And it's Fanmail Friday.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I am your host, Stacey Gotsulias. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified when our videos go live. So, not shocking, Aaron Judge wins the MVP, and also not shocking that it was unanimously. Was anyone really surprised by this? I don't think anyone should be surprised by it. I think maybe the only question was if it was going to be unanimous, but I figured it would be. And the other fun thing about it was he got every first place vote. Bobby Witt Jr. got every second place vote. And I think that's only happened one other time. And I think it happened with Mookie Betts in second place, winning every second place vote for NL MVP, if I'm not mistaken. So that's pretty cool. And Soto came in third. Shohei Ohtani wins the NL MVP. Also not shocking that it was unanimous. And we knew who was going to win, not only because of their numbers, but Derek Jeter. They bring Derek Jeter onto the award show and you're thinking, okay, well, Judge is winning it. And then Clayton Kershaw. And then you're thinking, well, obviously Ohtani's going to win it. So it was really anticlimactic. Again, the only question would be whether or not they'd be unanimous. And they both were. Lindor came in second. Marte came in third. So how are we all doing? Yes, Papa Rick, this is the first live show since the World Series. I had to push it back. I forgot I was getting vaccinated, and wasn't done by 12. I was done at 12:05. I probably could have scheduled this for 12:30 or 1 o'clock, but I needed to make all the graphics because it's Fanmail Friday. So let's get started with Fanmail Friday. As usual, we start with our insiders first. If you're new, Fanmail Friday is something we do every week. We let the viewers and listeners ask us questions, and you guys basically produce the show. And the tradition is we have our first question asked by Insider Betty. So here we go. If we don't get Soto, what would be your plan of action? What do you think of using money saved for Corbin Burns and a premier bullpen guy like Tanner Scott? And then to add to this, because I thought it was funny, David F. Insider asked, assuming we get Soto back and you could get any other free agent, who do you choose? I like Corbin Burns because it also hurts the Orioles. A lot of people want Corbin Burns. I don't want to think about a world where the Yankees don't get Juan Soto. I really don't. And I know that's very Pollyanna of me, but I really don't want to think about it right now. I want to think that Hal Steinbrenner is going to do everything he possibly can to make sure that Juan Soto stays in pinstripes until he's at least 40 years old and until I'm at least 64, almost retirement age. So keep Juan Soto in pinstripes until I'm almost retirement age. And as for Corbin Burns, I mean, it would be something if they could get him. This is the problem, though, with the Soto stuff. We don't know how the Yankees are going to fill the rest of the roster. Now, we have those quotes from Hal the other day that we read that said that he was telling Soto that he wants to make the team as good as possible surrounding him, but he also has the money issue in the back of his head. And you know how Hal is. He doesn't want to go too far over the luxury tax. So I mean, would I like to get Corbin Burns? Corbin Burns? Sure. I mean, hell, even if they get Soto, I'd like to get Tanner Scott as well. I'm greedy. I'm a Yankee fan. I can't help it. But thank you both for those questions. And what do you all think in the comments about getting those guys? Because, I mean, why can't the Yankees be like the Dodgers and just get everyone? Who cares? Who cares about the money? You're making more money than I will ever see in about 300 lifetimes at this point, guys. So just spend the money on a team. Yeah, it is basically Soto or bust. And that's how it should be, honestly. We saw how he reacted to playing in New York. He hit one of the biggest home runs that we've seen in years to propel the Yankees into the World Series. He loves the fans. The fans love him. He had one of the best years he's had. He had a career high in home runs. You know, he is tailor-made for pinstripes. Keep him here. Seems simple, doesn't it? Yeah. But again, thank you guys for that question, or the two questions. Next up, Thomas Cassidy. Which Yankee has the best social media? I used to love Didi's victory tweets, but I don't particularly follow any of the current crew. Who should I follow? It's funny. I follow a bunch of them, but I don't pay attention to what they do. Judge will have his social media team make recap videos when they win series, which is cool, but it's only cool when they win series. And it also, I've spoken about this many times on the show. It doesn't feel as good if they win a 2 out of 3, but they lose the last game in embarrassing fashion. And that's happened a few times with the Yankees, where like that last game in Baltimore before the All-Star break. And, you know, there've been others. And when he puts the series recap up and talks about how great it was, it's just like, do you remember the last game? Because it was pretty embarrassing for you guys. But, you know, they're all harmless. They don't put up anything bad or anything. You know, and I follow most of them on Instagram. I follow Cole. Well, Glaber took all of his Yankee stuff off of his Instagram. Jazz, Judge, Luke Weaver, who else? But some of them don't post that much either. Clark Schmidt, I follow him as well. Soto, I follow him. So yeah, I think Instagram is better than Twitter or anything else right now. You know, Didi was really into Twitter, but you know, most of those guys are into Instagram now. So if you have an Instagram account, I would suggest that. Thank you for the question, Thomas. And Insider Casey asks, what are some of your favorite and least favorite choices for award winners, seeing we are just finishing award week? I'm still 18 years later angry about Justin Morneau winning MVP, and that one writer in Chicago gave Derek Jeter a 6th place vote, which pretty much screwed him. I'm still angry about that. I mean, you know, Morneau had a good year, but I don't know. It feels like Johan Santana and Joe Mauer were both better than him. Like, he wasn't even the MVP on his own team, and he won the all-around MVP. That just rubbed me the wrong way. Also, Rafael Palmeiro winning the Gold Glove over Tino Martinez when he only played 28 games at first base. That's like 25 years ago, and I'm still angry about that. And I'm not one of those. It's funny. The Gold Glove thing, I'm not really like, when a guy wins, it's fine. But if someone loses in that sort of way, and you wonder what the writers are thinking, because honestly, what are you thinking? He literally played 28 games. Look it up. I think it was 99 or 98. And we were all appalled. Appalled that happened. And if you're old enough to remember that, yeah, it was appalling. That's the only way to say it. But thank you for that question, because I can't think of favorite. I mean, you know, Judge should have won in 2017, should have won the MVP. Altuve shouldn't have won. If you looked at every single metric, Judge was better than Altuve. That'll also bother me, because Judge should have 3 MVPs right now. He shouldn't have 2. Yeah. A-Rod in 05 and A-Rod in 07, I liked those mainly because people were annoyed that David Ortiz didn't win in 05. And then 07, you know, he came out like a house on fire. Is that the phrase? Do you remember A-Rod's 2007? That was insane. So I liked those 2 MVP wins. And then when people get stiffed by the MVP votes, then I don't like it. Understandably. But thank you for that question, Casey. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up, when they premiere or when they go live, in this case live. And if you'd like to be part of next week's Fanmail Friday, reply to the pinned comment on our videos Monday through Thursday. I will put them up Monday through Thursday. I promise. This week was a rough week. Ask us anything, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. You get top priority, and your questions will be answered in segment 1 or segment 2. Today we have some insiders in segment 2 because they asked a lot of questions. The link is in the description, and it isn't only for Fanmail Friday. You get text from us. You text us questions. We will send out breaking news, and there's a 14-day free trial. It's a good time. So coming up next, more Fanmail Friday. So do you like watching basketball live? Because I do. And I don't do it as often. It's not as easy for us to get down into the city from the suburbs, but I love going to MSG. I even love going to Barclays and just sitting there in the atmosphere, last second shots, exciting dunks, stuff like that. Live basketball is really fun. And with Gametime, it's never been easier to get the best tickets for those NBA games. They have a new feature. It's called Gametime Picks, which does all the hard work for you. So instead of searching through thousands of tickets, Gametime Picks filters out the fluff. It shows you the absolute best deals on really good seats. And they also have an all-in pricing feature. So you just toggle on it and it shows you the full price up front. So you don't have any surprises at checkout. You also get seat views. So if you've never been to MSG or Barclays or any other venue, you can see a panoramic view from the seat that you pick in the app, so you can decide exactly where you would like to sit. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB, that's LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. There we go. There's my name. Okay, so we have a few more insider questions before we head over to YouTube questions. And then I figured some of you guys who are in the chat, you can ask me questions and I'll answer them in segment 3. We'll make this fun. Since I'm by myself and it's not as easy for me to talk by myself. Although people in my real life will say, you talk all the time. Okay, so I lied. I do. So here's another insider, Chris L. I have 2 questions for you. If you were to hit the game-winning home run, what would your celebration be? If you played for the Yankees, how do you think John Sterling would call your home run? Questions can be relayed to Brian for answering at a later date. Well, I would hope that he would make some sort of pun out of my name. You know, I once had a blog. I called it Stacey Got's Lots to Say. So I'm assuming he would use Gots in there. Oh, I know what he would do. I just thought of it. A couple of my I had very many nicknames over the years because of my last name. Godzilla was one of my nicknames. But one of my coworkers would always sing I Got Sue Under My Skin. John Sterling would definitely do that because it's an old song. He likes singing. I think he would do that. If I were to hit a game-winning home run, I would definitely moonwalk from third base to home. I would definitely moonwalk at some point, and I think it would be the best if you just moonwalked from third base to home plate and moonwalked across home plate. I think that could be pretty fun. I'm an 80s, 70s baby, 80s kid, so yeah, all about the moonwalk. I used to be able to cartwheel when I was younger, but I am too old for that. I think I might hurt myself. So yeah, moonwalking would be my home run celebration. Thank you for the question. Let's see. Eric S. Hi, Stacey. Like you, I'm sick of the Soto drama and why the Yankees had to fly to see him when he already knows about the team. My question is, who was/is your favorite all-time announcer? I remember from the 70s, Scooter, Frank Messer, and Bill White. Yeah, my childhood was those guys and into the 80s. I loved listening to Phil Rizzuto. I really did. And I loved Bill White. I loved the two of them together. you know, my most cherished memories was hearing them say, "This bud's for you," after someone hit a home run. I loved that sponsorship. I thought that was so funny. But yeah, I would say Scooter and Bill White were the two that I really loved listening to growing up. If you're in the chat, let me know who you guys liked listening to on the TV. Um, you know what's cool? There's an account on YouTube that shows old games, and they put up the Mets Braves game from July 4th. Was that 85? The one that went like a ton of innings and John Sterling was on the call for that game, but they put that up on YouTube. Um, I'm trying to remember what the channel's name is. It has baseball in it. I know that, but I can't think of the name of it. I'll think of it at some point. But thank you for that question. And I like the guys now. I don't mind the guys now, but there's something about Scooter and Bill White. I liked their friendship and they were just really funny together. Our last insider question comes from Lauren, a non-baseball fan mail Friday for you. Has your family had any Thanksgiving food mishaps? I know the deep fried turkey is supposed to be delicious, but I don't trust people to not injure themselves. I agree. When I see people put turkeys in, like barrels of oil to cook them, that freaks me out. I'm not into crazy cooking. I don't think we've ever had any food mishaps. There was one Thanksgiving where we couldn't cook Thanksgiving dinner. We used to go to my grandmother's house in Upper Manhattan, and her building didn't have gas for like 2 months. And so Christmas and Thanksgiving that year were not normal. So for Thanksgiving, we got Dominican food, which was amazing. And then for Christmas, we did Chinese food, and the only mishap that I can think of is um, they didn't use their dining room as a dining room. They used it as a bedroom. My uncles were living in there. So they would have a fold-up table in the living room for like 20 of us. And every Thanksgiving, Easter, and Christmas, without fail, one side of that fold-up table would collapse and food would fall. And like we knew it would happen, but that was the only mishap that I could think of. But thank you for that. I'm not adventurous when it comes to cooking. One mishap I had, I put a little too much cream in a casserole that I was making. So it was a little more liquidy than it should have been, but it still tasted really good. It was fine. That's the only thing I can think of. But thank you for that question. All right. First YouTube question from Vincent M. Durham, 1695. What do y'all think the Yankees plan B will be if they don't sign Juan Soto? Love the podcast and keep up the great work, Stacey and Brian. As I said earlier, I don't want to know. I don't want to think of a plan B. It's Juan Soto or bust for me. And I know it's Juan Soto or bust for anyone else because, as I said, he is made for pinstripes. There is no excuse for them not to be able to convince him to stay. And I always joke, back up the Brinks truck, but back up the Brinks truck. You have to outmaneuver Steve Cohen. You really do. You just have to. And if you don't, Yankee fans are going to be really mad at you. How? Like they might actually riot. Maybe. We'll do one more question. We have time in this segment. So Rivka Meiselman, 3375. Stacey, would you mind sharing your memories of the media's relationship to the teams back in the 80s? I'm a drop older than you, and I remember much more of a friendly vibe. Am I just senile? You're not senile. I I think the thing is, we have more exposure to the media now. We follow them on social media. They're tweeting every 5 seconds. They're tweeting everything out, trying to be first. Not everyone, but there's a group of them that are like that. Some of the guys back then weren't great guys. They were, I wouldn't say mean-spirited, but you just didn't have as much exposure to them. It was just a different world back then. You read everything the next day in the paper. You would see things on TV, like in sports reports and stuff, but you didn't have as much access to the media as you have now. It's a totally different situation. Um, so I don't know if, there was fights. Not with, well, yeah, Yankee. Yankee players were a little testy with media, but do you remember some of those really bad Met teams in the early 90s getting into fights, like literally with the press in the locker room? It's just a different vibe now. It's a different vibe. You know, as with everything, like everything seems better years ago, and in some cases they are. But in this case, it's just we're more exposed to the media now. I don't think they're necessarily meaner now or nicer then. I think it's basically the same. It's just we see more of it, if that makes sense. But thank you for that question, Rivka. Appreciate it. So, coming up, more YouTube questions, and I will answer any questions that you have in the chat, which should be fun. So, that's coming up next. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I haven't checked, but is there a bet that the Cowboys are gonna sign Daniel Jones now that the Giants released him? Could you imagine if the Cowboys get Daniel Jones and he plays against the Giants on Thanksgiving? That would be interesting. I know a lot of people are joking about that. You can bet on NHL, NBA, MLB futures, college football playoffs are happening. College basketball is going to get underway. So there's a lot of stuff that you can look up on FanDuel. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's wrap up the YouTube questions and answer your questions in the chat, or we'll just chat. It's a Friday, it's relaxed. Let's do this. Okay. Elusive. HD, that's your name. Hold on, there we go. Hi, guys. I've been listening for a while now. Love the show. Thank you. I haven't seen anyone talk about it, but should the Yankees consider going for Profar to fill the void that has been left field for how many years now if it doesn't cut into Soto money? Interesting. Don't see people mentioning him. It is unbelievable, isn't it? How many years now that the Yankees haven't had a good left fielder? I mean, Verdugo was fine, and he started off the year really well, but then just completely disappeared. And then his defense was even suffering also, which wasn't great. And at first I was like, Verdugo, really? And then I thought, well, I mean, he's a legit outfielder. So, okay, cool. We're not putting Oswaldo Cabrera out there. We're not putting Isaiah Kiner-Falefa out there, I'm just trying to think of other people that maybe they can put in. I don't know that much about Profar to know how he would do with the Yankees or if that would even be an option. And speaking of, things that are happening in the offseason and who to get and who not, there are so many bogus trades that are being, I don't know, like when you Google Yankees, and we spoke about this the other day, but there was one trade that showed Jason Dominguez going to the Cardinals for Nolan Arenado and Lars Nootbaar. But the way that the first article I read was framed, it seemed like it was something that was in the works. And then when you read further down in the article, you realize it's from a Cardinals blog. And so I just want to warn you guys again, just be careful with all the stuff that's floating around in the off season and don't believe everything that you see, because there's going to be so many articles like that. But Profar is interesting. I'll have to look up and see how he could fit. But they definitely need a left fielder that contributes to the team for a full season. So thank you for that question, Elusive HD. And finally, we have Robbie Garnes with our last question of the week. Hi, guys. Your Hall of Fame commentary this week was exceptional. Thank you. I have a few questions about the Hall. Firstly, how does a player become eligible for the Hall of Fame? Who can recommend them and based on what criteria? Secondly, do you think Pete Rose will be able to get into Cooperstown now that he's passed away? And if so, will Shoeless Joe also be admitted? Finally, can/will they ever reconsider the case for Mattingly and Munson for the Hall of Fame? Thanks and have a blessed week. You know, I'm not sure about the actual criteria. I think there's probably playing time put in there, right? And I'm assuming, right? Because it's not everyone who retires 5 years before, but you have to be retired 5 years. I know that much because all the guys that are in this year's class retired 5 years ago. And I don't know how that actually works other than that. I've never really I just wait for the ballot to come out, laugh at some of the selections because some of them you're like, "Oh yeah, that's a one and done guy. He's not getting in." And you feel bad, but it's kind of exciting for them to be at least on the ballot because they know in their heads they're not going to get in. I don't know about Pete Rose getting in now that he's passed away. There's a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of stuff going on with Pete Rose beyond the sports betting stuff. Although it's ironic that sports betting is so prevalent now that it almost feels hypocritical in a way, but there was other stuff, character flaws with Pete Rose, non-baseball related, that are icky, and people might want to keep him out as a Hall of Famer. Mattingly and Munson, I mean, maybe those veteran committees that people will be on. I know that other players will be considered for the veterans vote. I know Sheffield's going to be considered, I think, starting in 2026, if I'm not mistaken. I think I read that the other day because he fell off the ballot. This year's the last year for Billy Wagner. I think he gets in this time. I think he'll be one of those, last second guys to finally get in. Honestly, he should have been in a few years ago, but I don't have a Hall of Fame vote. I was never in the BBWAA, even though I wrote for different websites and stuff, but I was never a beat writer or anything like that. Okay, let's see. I'm looking at some of your because honestly, I don't pay attention to the other teams. I really don't. I'm so like insular when it comes to the Yankees. I don't even know and also everything's about Soto right now. And it was the same thing last year with Ohtani. Like everyone forgot about all the other free agents. And my former co-host and I would talk about that a lot. We went through all the free agents last year and, whether they should be on the Yankees, whether they should not be on the Yankees, where we think they were going to go, etc. I'm still not in that mode yet where I'm looking these guys up and trying to figure. I just want Soto right now. That's where my brain is. I'm not thinking about anyone else right now other than Soto. That's all I want. That's all I want. No. And he shouldn't. Right. I agree with that. Well, okay, listeners, you didn't hear that. Do you think Bauer can get back into Major League Baseball? No. And then someone else said Bauer deserves to rot in another league far away from MLB. Yes, true. That's another person with character flaws. No teams want him. Just no. No. Okay. If you put Yeah, see, okay. And that's the other thing. I really want them to develop Jason Dominguez, not screw up with him. I know he didn't do well in left field. Yeah, he played there like 3 times, okay? So he has winter to figure it out. He has spring training to figure it out. He's so young that they can mold him into a left fielder. Okay? So, yes, I think I would rather maybe put Dominguez in there and not worry about a free agent left fielder. But I don't want Judge playing center field all the time either because his body's going to break down sooner because he's a big dude. He's going to be 33. We don't know how a body like that is going to last or if it's going to last and how soon he's going to have to DH because we've never seen guys this big in MLB playing in the outfield. We've seen pitchers who are tall, but we've never really seen a guy built like Superman playing in center field. I'd rather him in right, but if they get Soto back, I can deal with Judge in center field. But I would also like for them to give him a little bit of a break from center field, maybe throw him in the left, or throw him into right, DH Soto, maybe sit Stanton for a day. I don't know. There's all different things that we have to consider. That's why I just want them to sign Soto. Because once they sign Soto, everything else should fall into place. Should. Hopefully. We'll see. Any other questions? Did I miss anything? I don't think so. I'm just checking. I hope you are all having a lovely day. If you're in the New York area, it snowed last night, but then the rain washed it away. But I was up late and I looked outside and thought I was hallucinating and I saw snow on the ground and it was really, really nice. And I was happy about that. It might be the only time it snows too, so we'll see. If they have more faith in Spencer Jones's defense over Dominguez, then they should deal him and stop Gap to wait on Jones. Jones needs more playing time. His strikeout rate is way too high. Like, it's still way too high, and he's still young too. I think they're going to give him more time. But you already called Dominguez up. You saw what he did before he tore his elbow, and they shouldn't have called him up if they weren't going to play him at the end of the year. What was the point? They were jerking him around again and playing him sporadically, which doesn't help with his development. He did really well on every level other than the majors, and that ruined his overall average. Because when people see Dominguez, they say, oh, 207 average. He only did this. He only did that. It's because the Yankees were barely playing him. And, they said, oh, if he comes up, we'll play him. That's not what happened. And I don't want them to jerk him around. So I want them to give him a chance in left field. Let's do it. Left field. Yes. And that's the other thing, Selena. I hope they don't toy with him the way they did Peraza. That's my biggest problem. I don't like what they've done to Peraza and what they've done to Dominguez. Jay Till, will they give Peraza a chance this? I really hope so. I know I said on this show, maybe not this season, but maybe last season, that I wouldn't mind seeing Peraza and Volpe up the middle together. Why not? Give Peraza a chance, because they do the same thing with him too, where they bring him up and don't do anything with him. You held on to these guys. You held on to all these guys. You held on to Volpe. You held on to Peraza. You wouldn't sign Corey Seager. You wouldn't sign Correa. Like, all these different options that you had for shortstop that you didn't sign because you held on to these guys. And yeah, Volpe's doing a great job. But what about Peraza? You kind of tossed him away once you picked Volpe. No, because if Glaber's not coming back, then maybe turn Peraza into a second baseman. Or put Jazz at second, put Peraza at third, because he was doing pretty good at third when you put him there. Again, there's so many different options with in-house options, there's so many players that they could use to fill some of these positions and not have to spend a lot of money. So they only have to spend money on Soto. And I don't know why they don't. But again, Dominguez showed you what he could do when he came up before he tore his UCL. And he did great in every level other than the majors in 2024 because the Yankees were jerking him around. They need to play him regularly. It's time. Let's do it. All right. We got to go because we're running long. But let me just answer this. Selena, what do you think about training Waldo to be a proper first baseman? He does seem good there, but I kind of like him as the utility guy because he can play so many different positions, and he does pretty well when he does that. I'm hoping that's what they do, because that's another thing. Who's playing first? Are they going to stick DJ there? That's a nightmare scenario, because they still have DJ for 2 more years. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And we have all off season to cover it. And we will, because we'll discuss all this stuff. But thank you guys for joining me for this live edition of Fanmail Friday. Again, I apologize that it wasn't noon and it was at 2. I got vaccinated and I wasn't home in time for the noon, so I pushed it back to 2. So I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, you can find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. You can find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. I will see you solo again Monday. And then Brian will be back for Tuesday. And on Tuesday, we're going to do a noon live stream. And I might do another live stream on Monday. We'll see how I'm feeling. But have a good weekend. And thank you all for joining me. I appreciate it.